to a breezy La Rochelle and to Yachting Monthly's test of the Amel 55. So up at the bow, massive stainless steel bow roller. The main one, there's a chain locker below here and hose pipes to go down. I'll show you that later. But this is the main windlass here. This one's kind of a secondary one that uses the chain and cable. Massive bow roller. You can just see these two small holes just on the inside of the bow roller, and fresh water comes out of those to wash the chain when the anchor comes back in. Very nice. At the moment you can put a Jenica tack just here, but you may see the nav lights here, the Autopilots nav lights, which would be swept away. They're now on the new models, they're over on the side, so that's clean. And you can also choose to have a bowsprit, carbon bowsprit, just put in the port hand roller. These very nice flip up cleats have proved to be a bit tricky if you're, just pulling at this angle. The sharp edges don't help anything, so they've gone back to the kind of solid cleat with nice rounded edges that you can pull on. That's all good. So into the sail locker. So here you've got the two windlasses and the hawse pipes here, which go into, there's a chain locker in here. This is the bow thruster, which drops down, it's retractable, and there are access panels here, and you can unscrew this entire bit here as well to get at all that. And there's the chain locker. So the main one, there's 100 meters of stainless steel chain in that one, and this would be for cable, so 20 meters of chain and maybe 50 meters of cable in this one. There are the breakers for the two electric furlers, jib and staysail, and there are breakers and gubbins for all the rest of the electric stuff. So here's the staysail, electric furler, and there's the Genoa electric furler. You'll notice here, if the electrics go for whatever reason, you're out of power, just stick a winch handle in there and you can do it yourself. That's the thing that's going to crop up throughout this boat, the fact that electrics help. The whole idea is that there's manual contingency right the way through. This is interesting, don't know anyone else who does this, moulded non-slip. It's nicely done. It's not to everyone's taste to look at, but it's very effective. It's more expensive than teak, apparently, because it's so labour intensive to make. This we like as well. You may notice there aren't many handrails about, but you're surrounded by them. They're right the way around. Good tow rails there, plenty of bracing. And now moving back to the mast. So here's the main mast. These Amel gets all these made at a company in Switzerland. It's their own profiles, and it's got like a section for the furler, the actual sail to furl in, and there's another run forward for all the cables, so the two are separate. It's very clever. This is also not something I've seen before. These are the halyards. To save you having tons of rope swinging around here, there are these halyards, and if you want to tighten them up, and there's your winch, you just hook something through there, 2 to 1, wind it up, and then lock it off again. Another very clever thing. Here's the furler, so that's an electric motor. Again, the idea being that make life easy, but also with maintenance in mind, you can loosen these two bolts, the engine drops out, which disengages from the furler itself. So if you run out of electricity again, just drop the motor and you can wind it by hand. There's backup for everything. So on the side decks here, got the one track there, and the orange line is a tweaker. You can always cleat it off so you can use the winch for something else. In here is the gas locker, plenty of space, very secure with bolts holding the whole thing in place, and the water filler. And this one is more deck storage. That goes up to about here. And here's the spray hood. It's changing slightly, but the idea is that you've got this gorgeous curve of acrylic or polycarbonate, I'm not sure which it is, but it's 12mm, very solid. Then you've got this roof here with the extender at the back. That slides on if you don't want the shelter for some reason. It's changing a bit in that it's slightly lower at the front and about 5 centimetres higher at the back, so that it gives it a slope which is better for drainage, and aesthetically it just looks a bit nicer. So a bit more deck stowage here. Locker just for lines and so on. It's not very big. There's one on the other side on this boat, but it's being moved on subsequent ones, so there's a step there. It's now a step, so it's a lot easier to get into the cockpit than sort of scrabbling over the edge here. This has also changed slightly in that this window is now gone. They've taken that out and put an opening hatch in here. So that's solid. You've still got the port light there, but there's 2 opening hatches either side there, which just lets in a lot more light and ventilation down below. You've got these rails here, you've got one on the main boom as well, and you can just slide a bimini into that, so you can tie that to the spreaders and cover the whole boat in shade. This is also quite nice. This block here opens up so you can use one of the halyards through this to go into the lazarette where the outboard is. Just wind it up on an electric winch, take it outboard, put it on your boat. Very nice. So let's have a look at the lazarette. Again, massive space. This little step, there are some steps down here. This here is for the outboard. So when I said, the block, you can bring a halyard down, there's your outboard, lift it out and away you go. It's very nice, tie all your fenders on there, so as soon as you open it, they're right there, you don't have to jump in to get them. And under here, it's full access to the steering quadrant. You've got the 2 autopilots there, the heading sensors, and you can also see here, this little bolt, so it's quite stiff with 2 autopilots on it, so you can take this one off, put it on there, and that's your spare, good and ready. There's the hatch, so you'll notice here, there's another one on deck. That's your emergency tiller. It's really big. It comes up to the back of just before the mizzen mast. That's how long it is. Tons of leverage. Another nice touch on this one, a very expensive option, is an electric passerelle. It's hydraulic as well, so it doesn't need a halyard. You can just walk right out there. Very expensive, very luxurious. That is better. It's freezing out there. It's been blowing sort of 20 to 30 knots for a day now. It's very bright, but it's very cold. And it's wonderful in here. You've got this cockpit tent, which with this sliding cockpit cover just encloses the entire space. We sailed like this today. You've got the winches here if you want to do some trimming. There's a button. The winches run from the wheels anyway. So here's some cockpit stowage. Tons of deck stowage on this boat. This entire section lifts up, and that's the engine room down there. So there's everything. It's engine, generator, it's the water maker, it's all your chargers, it's everything, all down there, and very good access as well. Oh, there's that's your mizzen main sheet as well, or mizzen sheet possibly. Here's a cockpit table which slides, so you can let your guests in and then close them off again. 2 leaves, so there's always, put 1 leaf up and there's always, you can get past easily. The helm position. This fabulous leather trimmed helm position with a flip down seat there if you wanted to sit and put your feet somewhere. So here's the bridge, let's call it. Huge wheel here, lovely leather trim on it. Amazing views, right the way around. So over here we've got electronic throttle. You've got your bow thruster up and down and then side to side, so actually making it work. You've got 2 autopilots here. This is the one that's in play at the moment. There's your spare, and those are now, because you can't see them from down here, they've been kind of put on blocks to elevate them so you can see them. So there's your autopilots. There's your chain counter. These are cameras, so there's 3 cameras on this boat, on the mainmast spreader and 2 on the mizzen. So you can control them when they turn up here, so you can see. Very good for checking what kind of ground you're about to anchor in. You just have a look at that camera and you can see right down over the forepeak. There is the up and down on the windlass. There's the washing, there's the freshwater hose that comes out and washes the chain and the anchor as they come on board. There's your port and starboard winch buttons. So there's that's the mizzen in and out. That's the main in and out. That's the mizzen and main out tools. And there's your 2 foresail controls. So we're coming in here, there's a nice drop down washboard there, which just slides up and down, very nice. Top there. Great handle here on the way down, another one there. And then you've got these, there's grab rails pretty much all over. You've only got the table here. Anyway, into the galley. What I said about maintenance, that's all there. You can see all these lines are labelled and the spare fuse is tacked up, and that's all access to the helm position. So here, this locker here is now moved forward, so the bar isn't there because they found this space wasn't very useful, so they've just moved the whole thing, the front of it, to there. Here, instead of one big deep sink, there's now two stainless ones. So there's one there and another smaller one here. The dishwasher's here at the moment, but there is, you can have one put in here and you lose two of these drawers. The stowage out here, stowage here, there's a big Force 10 3-burner hob there. This massive work surface with these lovely fiddles. You've got two cool drawers there. You can make them both freezers if you want. There is another freezer over there, but that's optional under the starboard seating, and a big fridge here. There's also stowage below the deck, and the water tanks there. 800 litres of fresh water right under you here. So moving across, we've got stowage here, which is lovely, and that's where you keep all your valuables and crockeries and things. And when you're at sea, you just drop that in and they're all locked. Very clever. So into this saloon, this fabulous space which is dominated by this gorgeous sweep of American walnut, that is. They've actually changed it, it's now mahogany again because it has more interesting graining, nicer patterns, so won't see that again. There's the U-shape, usually quite difficult to get into. You have to kind of shuffle along like this, not with this one. It's got sliders that secure with bolts, so you can just walk in there, table slides back, enjoy your meal. This also comes out, it's got champagne and claret sized holes. That can also plug into the cockpit table. The stowage all the way beneath this one, you've got the two compressors for the fridges. They're under here at the moment, but they're now on newer models, they're going to be over there, which gives you loads of space here. They've also remodeled their cushions, so there's a sort of a hinge section here, and you can just lift that up and get straight at the stowage underneath. As I say, you've got the freezer under there at the moment, that's an option, and under here is the AC units. But in general, it's a wonderful place to rest. You've got the 4 opening hatches here, you've got these lovely windows. The whole ports are a perfect height, really good height, and on those winter evenings, you can just sit back, maybe watch a little telly. Another interesting thing we didn't mention up in the anchor locker there, so where the chain locker is, that's a watertight bulkhead, a crash bulkhead if you hit something right there, and also the bulkhead behind me, the forward bulkhead there, is also a crash bulkhead. This boat's full of them. Here's another one. You'll notice, looking under here, that you've got these seacocks for all the through pipes. This is, from the forward heads, that comes through there. You see they're all glassed in and they've all got valves. That's because this, too, is a watertight bulkhead. You notice this hole in the door here? So what you have to do, you shut the door, this screws into the hole, winds up, bolts the door in place, so the door's going nowhere. This is another watertight bulkhead, and a very pretty one. Into the cabin. So we've got some stowage here. This is now one door on the new ones. It's just a single door that opens that way. Beautifully finished. All that lovely sort of padded vinyl I have in there. This is now, again, because it's a watertight bulkhead, they've taken this frame out so the door just sits flush on the bulkhead. It's just a bit more secure. Lovely vanity unit here. There's your stereo. There's a bass woofer below the bed and a little tweeter there, which is very nice. There's your AC. Again, every cabin has its own AC. That is an option. There's usually only AC in the saloon. So there's the seat, which kind of folds out, sits in there, and there's your vanity. So just probably flip out a mirror there or something. There's one. Under here, there's some stowage. And there's more here, which is currently being used as a cellar. And you notice these little leather fillets, so it doesn't slam shut and it fits very nicely, it doesn't squeak. Great stuff. There's also a huge amount of stowage under this berth here. So you've got all these push lockers outside. They've changed them from push lockers because they've had the same trouble with them that we do when you bang it and the locker opens. So they've now got the push button ones that you see everywhere. So those are all up the outside. We've also got under here mountain of stowage. It's full of cockpit cushions at the moment. There's your base woofer. There's also below that base, there's more stowage, still more stowage. The boat it's packed with stowage. Very nice hull ports there. You've also got 2 opening ports, so ventilation and light are brilliant. They light up this fabulous woodwork really well. So here's the ensuite heads for the forward cabin. Got the shower room here, which has this sliding door, which locks in place so it doesn't crash around. It's got the opening hatch there. Very good light. They're not on at the moment, there's one there. There's some stowage out here, more stowage there. Again, it's just this fabulous woodwork. Very deep sink, they make their own sinks and that's super deep. And there's some stowage under there. As I say, they're losing the square shower fittings because they're not desperately safe if you bang into them. And they're also losing the shower head, so it will just be the one hand shower that you can prop up there and stand under it and do the same thing, but it's just one unit instead of two. And the shower drains are all gravity fed, so there's no pump, there's no when you're draining the shower, it just automatically feeds into the keel sump, which is the grey water tank. So moving back into the saloon, through the saloon, we've got the chart table here. This is what I absolutely love about this chart table. You're going along at sea and that is wonderful. That's great, I love that. So we've got a drawer out here. This has changed. They thought that having something this long was, you know, somebody leans on that and that's a goner. And also if you're on starboard tack as we were earlier, you won't be able to, it'll charge away at you. So what I've done now, so they keep the fiddle, but it's now, you know, more conventional flip up chart table there. What else have we got? Excellent instrument space, tons of it. There's the space for your manuals and so on. There's your switch panel. Under here, you've got the engine batteries. They're all under there with the two breaker switches there. This is access to all black boxes that control all the electronics. And I like this too, the foot brace, so you can kind of jam yourself in there. So moving aft, there's a locker here for the pilot berth. And if the pilot wants some peace and quiet, just slide out this door, which also locks in place so it doesn't start zooming about at sea. Under this berth is a fuel tank, 900 litres in the fuel tank there. Got stowage outboard. Again, it's going to be push button rather than this, you know, just press affair. And they've kind of switched these around so the lockers are lower down and the top hinged, and this is now up here, and that's where you keep all the manuals and so on. So there's the berth. There's two opening hatches, one there and one there. This step, which helps you lever yourself up into what is quite a high berth, is now on this side because it's just easier to go launch yourself in. And there's a heads there for the pilot berth. So here's the owner's suite, this vast palatial owner's suite. You notice this is another watertight door, so there's another brace there with the wheel, and that'll sort it out. Compression post here for the mizzen mast. This is coming out. They found it a bit obstructive, kind of built into this space. So that's now gone. The television's mounted in there at the moment. That's now going to be in a kind of armoire type arrangement here, and it'll flip up at the end of the bed. The desk now is going to fold down like this, so there'll still be a desk there, and it'll still have a sort of similar sized chair arrangement, but it's going to fold down, which opens up this space, which I think will make a big difference. Got one opening hatch there, a couple in the coach roof, but there's also going to be, so we're losing this light, that's going, and then I've got two opening hatches either side here, so you've still got this light here, which is great, lets in, you know, the evening light, the really rich light. That's gone, two opening hatches. Tons and tons of locker space. Again, I think this is going to be, these are now one part doors rather than two. And there's lockers here and drawers here. Tons and tons of stowage, and that's before you do the same trick as you did in the forward cabin, with a vast stowage space under the berth. So here's the aft hatch, the master ensuite. Very, very bright. You've got a big opening hatch there. You've got another one in the shower section over here, which separates using this door. Tons of space. These two mirrored cabinets open. You've got all that stowage in there. A couple of drawers there. Again, very deep sink. And you've also got all these pegs here, so you could use it as a wet locker quite easily. Again, they're gravity drained, so there's no bzzz every time you go to the shower. Very cool. Beautifully fitted out. You know, I'd live here. Well, it's been a really windy trip to La Rochelle. We've had sort of 20 to 30 knots. Today it was a bit lighter. We had sort of 18 to 25-ish. So yesterday was all about photography, and we had full sail up in 30 knots, and it was pretty heavy at the helm, but then we wanted full sail to make the pictures look better. Today we went out and sailed properly, so to start with we had about sort of between 22 and 28 knots, and we were getting about 35 to 40 degrees to the apparent wind angle, making about 6.2 to 6.8 knots, which they said was a bit under. So what they did then was worked out that we had a bit too much mizzen up. So instead we rolled out a bit of genoa, and that meant suddenly we were, at 35 to 40, at about 24 to 27 knots of apparent wind. We were getting 7.2 to 7.3 knots. We actually maxed out. If you come down towards 40, you get an extra half a knot, so 7.6 was the best we did on a beat. As you tack through 100, again, it's just autopilot tacking, just hit the button, through she goes. You need to furl the sails though, because there are winches on the mast and the sheets tend to catch on them. So furl both sails, go through, unfurl, where you go. It's electric winches, there's no effort. Then coming down on a fetch, we were getting in about 20 to 25 knots of apparent wind. We got 8.2 to 9 knots. Beam reaching 8.2 to 8.6 in about 18 to 21 knots. And then further down, deep reaching made, at 100 degrees, at about 17 to 21 knots of apparent wind, we got 8.6 to 9.5. That was our speed of the day. And then further down at about 14 to 19 knots of apparent wind, beam reaching, broad reaching about 120, 130, 8 to 8.9. So she's quick, not necessarily for a 50-footer, but they did make the point that they're not building race boats. The idea of this boat is not to go fast, because going fast is uncomfortable when you're in big seas and banging around. And this boat is all about comfort. It has to be comfort. You look at the appointments, so you've got the dishwasher there. There's a washing machine, which I didn't mention, in the pilot berth heads. There's the microwave, there's the massive fridge, there's the freezers. This is about a home from home. You'll have money, we'll certainly have money to buy this boat, because I think the base boat works out at about 895,000, and there's a lot of options on this one. The base boat's pretty high spec obviously, but there's a lot of options on this. So you'll be keen on sailing around the world, because it's that kind of a boat. It's far too comprehensively kitted out to knock around the south coast. This is about crossing oceans, and it will do it with ease. We were out in 30 knots yesterday. I didn't even have oily trousers on. I didn't have boots on. I was dressed like this in 30 knots, reaching along, warm. We could have put the cockpit tent down. Would have been incredibly comfortable, and it's fingertip, so it involves very little effort. It looks like a big boat. It is a big boat, but to sail it is no effort at all. And they've put a lot of thought into the whole redundancy, so anything that does go wrong, there's a way of sorting it out, and they've already thought of it. So yes, you'll want to sail far. You'll be a couple. It's not really a family boat. There is one that has an option of twin aft cabins, but I think that would be making a mistake. So yes, it's for a wealthy couple who want to go around the world and don't want to sacrifice comfort while they're doing it.